Welcome back on this phenomenal Mother's Day here in the Hampton Roads area. For all the mothers out there, happy Mother's Day to you. In our Commonwealth Community Talk series, we're talking about Black maternal health. All of us got here because of a mother, but how hard is it for Black women to bear children? What about their doctor's appointments? And what is the impact upon the children and the Black community? It's Stay in the Water. I'm your host, Dr. Eric Claville. We'll be back in just a moment to talk about Black maternal equity. Welcome back. It's Stay in the Water. I'm your host, Dr. Eric Claville. Once again, we want to wish all the mothers out there a happy Mother's Day. This is actually, we celebrate this day, but actually every day is your day. You know, one great thing about all of us here in the world is that we all got here by our mother. And that's a phenomenal common denominator that we all have. And today we're celebrating you. So again, I'm giving you your flowers. And for all of those that have mothers out there that are still alive, make sure you love and cherish them. For myself, my birth mother passed away when I was 14 years old. But God blessed us with another mother who was with our family for 30 years. And we thank God for them. So I want to wish my mothers, Betty Relaford Claville, a happy Mother's Day, and Margaret Claville, a happy Mother's Day. So God bless you all. So what we have here, we've got in the studio as always, our producer, Marvin Folks, also known as DJ Scandals, which you can hear on the radio every day, Monday through Friday from 2 to 6 p.m. And not only that, but you know, we're always broadcasting on the campus of the Norfolk State University here at WNSB Hot 91, the soul of VA. You know, I'm very excited about this topic because in our Commonwealth Community Series, you know, we're talking about very important issues and we're bringing in individuals that to talk about these issues from the Commonwealth, around the Commonwealth, the DMV, and across the country to really delve into issues that I believe are very key to our community. Now, you know, here at State of Water, we bring movers, shakers, and policymakers to discuss issues important to you, the community. And one issue that's been getting a lot of airplay across the country, especially since the last Black Lives Matter movement that we had during the pandemic, is Black maternal health. And to help us break it down, we're fortunate enough to have two practicing OBGYN medical physicians with us here on the first half of the show and also in the second half. And I'd like to introduce to you now Dr. Tiffany C. Wilson, which is also Dr. T. Chanel, a board-certified OBGYN who is also very passionate, a passionate advocate for women's health. Dr. Wilson, thank you so much for being here with us on Stay in the Water.
Dr. Claville, thank you so much for having me, and thank you so much for that warm introduction. I would also like to add my celebratory remarks to those celebrating Mother's Day and even those who are preparing to be mothers in the future. Like Dr. Claville mentioned today, we celebrate you, we honor you. Thank you so much, and thank you to my mother, who obviously I would not be here without.
Absolutely. You know, Mother's Day is it's a joyous time. I mean, today we're also celebrating, you know, the mother of my two sons, our two sons, my wife, Dr. Michelle Claville, and we're getting a lot of things together, and hopefully she's happy with all the gifts. And, you know, we try to do right during the week, you know, making sure that the house is together and all that good stuff, and make sure she's happy. Because you know the saying, you know, if mama's not happy, then nobody's happy. So,
nobody's happy.
You know, but, you know, when we talk about happiness and motherhood, a lot of times that falls on deaf ears when it comes to African-American women. And I like how you put it, happy Mother's Day to all the mothers and those preparing to be mothers, right?
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk to us a little bit about, as an OBGYN, first of all, why did you choose that particular area of medicine? And in your profession and where you're working, what are you seeing as it relates to the happiness and the care of expecting Black mothers?
So, Dr. Claville, I'll be very honest. While most people would say they chose their specialties, I will lovingly say OBGYN chose me. I entered medical school thinking that I wanted to be a neurosurgeon, but in medical school you have clinical rotations, and OBGYN was my first rotation, and I just have to call it my first love. I got such a rush from doing deliveries, from educating about women's health, from taking care of moms during this very critical time in their lives as they are developing life. And after I went through all my other rotations, including my surgery rotation, nothing else just felt right. So I just will say OBGYN chose me. And so I'm very proud to have been practicing for over 10 years, and I definitely know that it was the right choice.
Wow.
So when we're talking about moms and, creating life, getting ready to birth your first, second, third, fourth, fifth, or whatever higher order number of baby this might be for you, the joy and excitement is the same through and through. They come because they missed their menstrual period, and now there's a baby on the way. So that level of excitement, that level of just exhilaration it's unsurpassed when you see them and they come in and it's like, Doc, I'm here, I'm ready for my prenatal care, we're having a baby or we're having another baby. And I just, every single time you share in that excitement with a family, there's nothing like it.
Wow. As you were describing that, my mind went back to the first time my wife and I found out that we were pregnant. And the second time we found out we were pregnant, it was, like you said, it was a lot of joy in that, and especially with them not being oopsies, because those do happen, especially when you plan those things out. But there is joy, but there's another side of it. Where you work, do you find that there is an imbalance of when it comes to getting the proper care and the improper care, especially when it comes to Black mothers?
I actually do see that disparity sort of firsthand in the setting that I work in. I work at Mary Center for Maternal and Child Health in the District of Columbia area. So we have 5 sites that are dedicated to serving lower income, uninsured, and underinsured patients. And while the vast majority of our population are Hispanic women, we do have a fair amount of African American women who we care for as well. And these women are coming from the parts of the community where you are definitely overrun by concerns like social determinants of health. So we've got food deserts, we've got issues with transportation, we have issues with child care, issues with employment, and all these things add to the constellation of the disparity in health care. Because if a woman is pregnant and she can't get proper nutrition, she can't get to her doctor's appointments, she doesn't have child care for her other children, she doesn't have a job that's providing stable income, then all of those things contribute to her prenatal care or potentially the lack thereof. And so the first barrier that sometimes a Black woman is going to reach in health care is if she has a healthcare provider, be that a physician, a nurse midwife, a nurse practitioner, or whomever that's taking care of her, and they don't understand her background, then she's already stigmatized from the door. Because the first concern that their voice is, well, you haven't been coming to your prenatal care visits, and there's a lot of finger pointing, when really the focus or the shift in focus should be on understanding, what those factors are that are preventing her from being compliant with prenatal care. Because I'll be very honest, I don't know one mom out there who is willingly missing her prenatal care appointments, willingly making bad food choices, willingly deciding that she is not going to optimize her health and safety for this growing baby.
Wow. It's interesting you mention that, because a lot of times individuals are blamed for their own predicaments and being in their own health disparity. But like you said, we know that we want to have families. We know that we want to have sons and daughters and raise children. But do we really know? Does a person really know how to take care of themselves until you actually get there in the prenatal stage? And part of that is, of your practice, you're not only an passionate advocate for women's health needs, but you also provide education and tools to empower them to become advocates for themselves. How do you how do you draw the line and input that knowledge and provide those tools for your patients?
Well, in my mind, it's very easy to do. The first thing that we want to do is every time someone crosses a threshold for care in a care space where I'm delivering care, when I previously worked in private practice, so it was the same there, it's an opportunity for education. Even if they're coming for a routine annual women's exam and they're not quite ready to get pregnant, it's a conversation we have. Are you considering having children? Yes? Okay. Here are some things I want you to do. Make sure that you're taking excellent care of yourself, that you're exercising, that you're eating right, that you are making sure that you are drinking enough water, that you're taking prenatal vitamins, avoiding tobacco, alcohol, and illegal drugs. So every single time I have an encounter with a woman, I use that as an opportunity to provide some level of education for her about women's health. And if we're seeking pregnancy, then the conversation may be more preconceptionally directed. But even if they're not seeking pregnancy, there's still discussions about optimizing health. There's discussions about even routine screenings that need to be done in women's health, just so that my patients are empowered to understand what it is that we are trying to do in achieving the most high-quality care for them. So every single time I encounter a patient, I try to make sure that I give some information that they can grasp and walk away with so that they feel more empowered about the care they're receiving, and they feel empowered to also advocate for themselves in other settings where I'm not likely to be present. If they have to encounter another healthcare professional and they're feeling like they're being dismissed or they're feeling like their concerns are not being addressed, it's a lot easier for them to feel empowered to speak up if they know that they've been gifted information that is going to be beneficial for them.
Do you find that individuals are intimidated to talk about, these things with their doctors? Because a lot of times, you're coming to the doctor's office, you're sitting in the waiting room, you go to this private room and you're sitting there for a while, and then all of a sudden, this figure comes in a white coat and,
mm-hmm.
they're deemed to be some of the highest educated and are in our society and tend to have your life in your life in their hands. Is there an intimidation factor that is hard that you see for a lot of these women to overcome?
Absolutely. Absolutely. There is an intimidation factor. It's always nerve-wracking to go to the doctor. I mean, as a physician myself, I step into my doctor's office, and you're always nervous because you don't want to get bad news. You want to make sure that you're doing the best for yourself care-wise. But you're right. Even something as simple as a white coat can be very ominous, and we know that in the healthcare space, and sometimes we actually have to make adjustments for patients who are a little bit more nervous in the healthcare setting. One thing that I do specifically, and I think a lot of physicians across the country have started to not do this, I don't wear my white coat. And I don't wear my white coat because I don't want to incite that level of fear in the patient, but also because it doesn't help me do my job any better or worse. When you walk in, I introduce myself. Hi, I'm Dr. Wilson. So then you know exactly who I am from the door. I don't need a white coat for me to tell you who I am. But I also feel like it sets the tone for a different environment. When I walk in or when a patient walks into a room with me and we're in the space, one of the other things that I like to do is, obviously, if we are new to the environment, this is a new patient to me, then we sit and we have a conversation. And that's important because it allows me to get to know them. So I don't just want to know medical history. If there's family, I want to know about family. If there's job, I want to know about job, because my patients are not numbers to me. They are people. They're individuals. They have lives. They have personalities. And all of this information is what I'm going to use to be able to deliver the best care. Secondarily, I've learned, and a lot of physicians do this, and I don't think they understand the potential implication, but when you walk into a room, you really want to sit eye level with the patient and make sure that you're having just a genuine conversation with them. If you stand above them, then it sort of feels like you're towering over them as some sort of authority figure, and that also can create some tension and get to a point where they're not as comfortable expressing their concerns. Finally, you have to be patient. We all understand that in healthcare, a lot of things are time-based or time-driven, and all of my patients and all of my staff in my office know you're not going to rush me. That's just what it is. One day somebody's going to need 30 or 45 minutes, and I'm going to give that 30 or 45 minutes, and I will apologize to the rest of the patients for running behind. But in the time that I have been practicing, it has always boded well for me, because one day patient A will need that 30 minutes, and the next day patient C will need that 30 minutes, but they all know that when they need it, I'm going to give it. And so that's how you develop the relationships that you need, so that moving forward, your patients are actually comfortable speaking to you about their concerns, speaking to you about their fears, and even sometimes reporting incidents that have happened in other healthcare settings that they need to try and figure out how to address and or how to rectify.
It's Stay the Water. I'm your host, Dr. Eric Claville. Here you're listening to another segment of our Commonwealth Conversation series. This day, on Mother's Day, we're talking about Black maternal equity. We have with us Dr. Tiffany Wilson, who is a board-certified OBGYN whose passionate advocacy for women's health is showing a difference in the community that she serves in the D.C. area. Dr. Wilson, you mentioned taking off your white coat, coming in and having a conversation with them. I remember some relatives of mine that went to medical school, and they talked about things changing, a conversation about having more bedside manners and making sure that the patients are more comfortable. Do you find that there is a difference in the care that your patients accept from you when you do that, as opposed to seeing other colleagues or doing the opposite?
I definitely do. I'm very proud to say that my patients, God love them, they seek an African-American physician, or they seek someone who looks like them because they know that the quality of care is different, and that's also been proven in the literature. And so even anecdotally and through my own experiences, what I understand is that when a healthcare provider does not look like them, especially in the African-American community, there's a lot of rush, there's a lot of blame, there's a lot of gruff conversation, and it doesn't create the environment where someone feels like they are welcomed in the office. Not only that, I approach healthcare as a partnership. I do have the knowledge. That I need to share with patients, and it is what we use together to make shared decisions about their health care. I'm not ever going to walk into a room and be like, you absolutely must do this because I say so. Because sometimes what I feel like may be the best recommendation for a patient, if I sit down and really examine their entire social circumstance, that may not be the best decision for them at the time. So then we have to sit together at the drawing board and go, okay, so this is the end point, and maybe my recommendation is where we need to get to, but then it's what are the steps to get there? If we cannot go from A to Z immediately, then what's happening at step B, C, and D so that we can get you there in a way that is comfortable for you and in a way that you don't feel like you are intimidated, and this is actually achievable.
Dr. Wilson, as a physician, you say that the relationship between a woman and our OBGYN is like a family relationship, both private and personal. Why do you say that, and how important is that when you have an African-American woman who's expecting or who has children with an African-American female doctor?
Well, first of all, I say that the relationship between a woman and her doctor is private and personal and like a family. Number one, because I feel like I'm taking care of the most sacred place of a woman's body, and that is her genital area, what I like to call her lady parts. So for women, it is the epitome of femininity. And so if something is not right there, then a woman may begin to question her entire state of her existence. So one has to be really sensitive to when a woman comes into an OBGYN, all of the emotions, feelings, concerns, fears that are enveloped in this one particular sort of system, the reproductive system. So that's the first thing is why I say it's private and personal. And with regard to growing families, again, I am instrumental in making sure that patients have the tools, the information, and the care that they need to expand their family. And that's not lost on me when I practice every day. So I really want to make sure that I'm doing the very best job. And I think that the only way to do that is to constantly create an environment where it's warm and welcoming and people can voice their concerns. And if other things are happening, we can make sure we address them. Because to me, I'm not just a physician. I jokingly say sometimes I should have also gotten certified in social work. Because, again, if you don't address the entire woman, then you're not really doing your best job. You're not doing your best work if you don't address every individual thing that is contributing to whatever questions, concerns, comments, or situations present themselves in her care.
It's funny that you mentioned that because, my PCP when I was in college, I sought out a African American doctor, a black doctor, and he and I became such good friends that his wife, who was office manager, would actually come and knock on the door because we would be there for like 45 minutes, just talking. And he has more patients to see. But, again, we just formed that relationship where I was comfortable sharing with him and he was comfortable sharing with me as well, especially in our two professions, both private and personal. So and I would just call you as the people's doctor, right? As the woman's doctor, you have that professional relationship, but that private relationship, how do you see that relationship when it comes to talking to them about real life stories, maybe health challenges that you may have experienced or something that you've seen?
When it comes to the private aspect of the relationship, I will, and my patients know this, my community knows this, I'm very transparent about my own experiences because I think that my experiences, especially when I share them, are what allow me to be more human to my patients and allow them to understand that, yes, I'm a doctor, and yes, I'm your doctor, but the same way that you go through things is the same way that I go through things. And I may have some of those successes that we celebrate together, but there also may be some tribulations that we also have to address. So, I talk to my patients about pregnancy loss because I've suffered a loss before. I can talk to patients about having a cesarean delivery when I really wanted to have a vaginal delivery, but that wasn't the most safe route for my baby. So those sort of exchanges and the fact that I'm willing to be open and share that information is really what develops a robust doctor-patient relationship and allows them to also share with me bidirectionally.
Wow. Do you find that patients tend to open up to you more about other things that are affecting them? Maybe that they came in for an issue, but there's another issue, and it's probably something that's affecting them, but they don't really say it, but then they let you know, and then all of a sudden it opens up the floodgate of treatment availabilities to them?
Yes, absolutely, all the time. I usually go in, and the first thing I do is, I walk in, I always make sure that, new patient or old, we greet each other. Hey, how are you doing? How are things going with the family, with work, etc. And sometimes even that little, just a check-in, is a moment where somebody feels like a person cares. And just that little check-in is where then I get, Doc, since you asked, this is going on, and I really don't know how to handle it. And I know it's not your area, but, I'm grateful that you asked me because no one else has asked me. And what I'm so grateful to be able to provide, especially at both the place I work now and in my places of former employment, is that we have the availability of other resources. So I have the social workers available to me. I have mental health care professionals available to me. So I have the resources to be able to reach out a little further into the community and be like, okay, I have a patient who's going through this, and we need this, and I need help. And so together as a team, we can figure out what resources we have available to help patients, even if it's not related to women's health. Sometimes it may be related to mental health. Sometimes it may be related to domestic abuse. Sometimes it may be related to resources at home. We have, where I work currently, we have assistance with bills. So we really try to make sure that we are taking care of the whole patient. And I'm really grateful to be able to do that and work in a setting where that level of care and the fact that we need to address every single aspect is optimized and prioritized.
Absolutely. Dr. Wilson, prior to the show, you and I were talking about the value of our beloved HBCUs. And you are a double graduate of the Howard University and Howard University School of Medicine, College of Medicine. And, of course, we talked about how I have a son who's there now studying mechanical engineer. And how do you find, especially in this season of where we're recognizing as a whole systemic racism, discrimination, and the like, how do you find that Howard University, HBCU, and also the College of Medicine help to prepare you or kind of pour it into you to handle what's out there and educate others about issues going on?
So, one of the things that Howard will say is that they are developing leaders for America and the global community, and I wholeheartedly agree with that, not only with my undergraduate experience, but also with my medical education and residency experiences. What I can say about Howard is that Howard really equips you to understand a total person, not just a patient in a room, not just a number on a piece of paper. And because Howard is situated in Washington, D.C., where there's been a large concentration of African Americans, unfortunately, who are the recipients of disparate care, it allows us a firsthand look at what happens when they present for care in a setting that is not the most warm, welcoming, or even knowledgeable about the disparities that African Americans in healthcare face. So then when they come to us at Howard and they talk about their experiences and they talk about how they were treated, I've been able to hone in on that information and, number one, apologize for the care that they've received elsewhere, because it should never happen, but also do a self-assessment and sort of really make sure that I am reaching all of the touch points that this patient needs and not just what is for their medical care. So I'm really grateful to be in a position and to have been trained in an environment where that was always the teaching, was you took care of the whole patient. And I think that in healthcare, especially now, as we are moving more towards really examining disparities and trying to correct them, the fact that we were always trained to be leaders and to really look at the entire spectrum has been very helpful for me in my career.
Absolutely. You know, we're coming down to our final minutes, and one thing I like to do is kind of delve into the personal side of our guests. You know, we have our professions, you know, we perform at a high level, we come to work every day, we give to the people that are entrusted to us, but we also have to take some time for ourselves and develop ourselves. So outside of being, you know, Dr. Wilson, the board certified OBGYN and passionate advocate for women's health, you also have a great hobby and some things that you're doing. Tell us a little bit about them.
So I am first and foremost a mom. I have a beautiful 13-year-old daughter who keeps me on my toes. So I spend a lot of time with her, with her activities. A couple of other, one hobby that I have is baking. So I'm really into cooking and baking. So that is definitely a stress reliever for me. Okay. And then a project that I have on the horizon is I'm working on starting a nonprofit organization that is called A Heart to Heal, that will be an organization dedicated to providing trauma-informed care, specifically in the mental health space and specifically for professional individuals who are survivors of domestic abuse and or professional abuse or emotional abuse. And
are you also an aspiring author?
I am an aspiring author. I am an aspiring author. I do want to write a book that sort of details and chronicles some of my experiences as a single physician in the healthcare space, trying to balance being a mom and being a doctor and making it all make sense.
Well, you know, look, all of us have many talents. That's why I love to ask that question, because you just never know, you know, what's under that white coat or in, you know, outside of that briefcase or outside the office. Like, I want to ask you, what's your favorite food to bake?
So my favorite food to bake, and the food that I'm probably the most known for, is a maple pound cake with buttermilk caramel glaze.
I just gained 10 pounds off that. Oh my God, that sounds delightful. Oh my goodness.
It's a fall favorite. I mean, I can make it year round, but just maple and caramel, they just put you in the right spirit for the fall time of the year. So I'm just very grateful to have the skill set, to be blessed to be able to be a baker. And I really enjoy that particular dessert.
Absolutely. Dr. Wilson, thank you so much for joining us here on Stay in the Water. Again, happy Mother's Day to you, and we'll be right back after this break. Welcome back. It's Stay in the Water. I'm your host, Dr. Eric Claville. We want to thank you all for joining us for our second half of our Commonwealth Community Conversation series as we delve into Black maternal equity. Now, of course, I can't move on without mentioning congratulations to all of the graduates of the 2022 spring class here at Norfolk State University. Congratulations to all of you who receive your degrees, your undergraduate, master's, and doctorate degrees. You know, the Spartans are some of the greatest alumni we have in the world, and we just inducted, again, hundreds more into our alumni association. Congratulations on the hard work. Your degree is a combination of dedication, hard work, sacrifice, and guess what? The best is yet to come. And then also, this is a very special day because those graduates gave one of the best gifts to their mothers that they could give, really their families, but especially their mothers, because today is Mother's Day. So happy Mother's Day to all of the mothers out there listening to the show. If you have your mother with you, if you have that grandmother, if you have that maternal figure, that mothering figure in your life, make sure you appreciate her, love her, and give her flowers while she can still smell them. Because you never know. You know, my birth mother passed away when I was in high school. So, again, phenomenal mother, Betty Relaford Claville. And, of course, we have another great mother, Margaret Claville, who was married and to our father for over 30 years. And, again, some of us don't have one good mother. God bless me with two. And I can't go any further when I say happy Mother's Day to the love of my life, the mother of my children, our two sons, Dr. Michelle Claville. Happy Mother's Day to you. So in this series, you know, I thought it'd be fitting, Marvin, that we talk about an issue that's very important, because one common denominator that every single human being has on this earth, past, present, and will be in the future, is that we all got here through a mother. And that's something that we all share. But at the same time, even though we share that common denominator, the experience of mothers preparing to give birth and even after birth are not the same, which is why we look at the equity piece. And one thing that the Black Lives Matter movement did, the recent movement, the last year and a half, 2 years ago, it shined a light on systemic racism and discrimination across the country and across all our systems. There are a lot of things that we've known, but there are a lot of things that they did not know. So joining us here in the second half of the show, we have a phenomenal professor from EVMS Medical School. That's Dr. Mary Ojo-Carsons, who is a board-certified OBGYN. Dr. Ojo-Carsons, welcome to Stay the Water.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. You know, as I mentioned earlier, you know, this is a topic that I thought should be talked about, especially on this Mother's Day, because a lot of times, as I mentioned, everyone doesn't get the same treatment across the board. But at the same time, sometimes it's intentional, unintentional, lack of resources, and the like. As a professor and as a practicing OBGYN, tell us, you know, from your experience, what you see as it relates to patients, care that they receive, and how the system actually treats women.
Well, I think that's a great question, and thank you for asking me, because the system honestly has failed and continues to fail Black and brown women. You know, it really is a healthcare crisis that we are having in this country when it comes to Black maternal health.
Wow. And
there's just been more awareness about it in the last year to 2 years, like you said, because of Black Lives Matter and that movement and exposing in all of our systems in this country. We had Black Maternal Health Week this past April, the 11th through the 17th. And again, just exposed that 3 to 4 Black women and brown women are 3 to 4 more times likely to die of complications. And I see it, the fear in the eyes of my patients, my Black female patients, and also my friends, you know, just being scared to access systems, and not only access systems, once they get into the system, once they get to a place where they're giving birth, there's a lot of control a woman gives up during the birthing process, and a lot of that woman relying on those that are around her, not only to help her bring a life into this world, her child into this world, but to keep her alive. And so there's a lot of fear that's there, and that fear has been exposed. And I think it's also been validated, which is very important.
Wow. You know, you mentioned a statistic that kind of caused my eyebrows to raise. You said that Black women are 3 to 5 times more likely to die during childbirth. Is that correct? 3 to 4 times more likely to die from complications of pregnancy and delivery. When you compare this population to white women, there were some statistics that came out from 2020 through National Health Center for Statistics, and
they showed that Black women, non-Hispanic Black women, for every, there are 55.3 deaths for every 100,000 live births. This is about 3 times more than white women. So you see that there is a far greater statistic of death that's proven and that's accounted for in Black and brown women. So that's why I call it a crisis. And it raises eyebrows because it's not something that's really talked about, but something that happens daily. And it's not necessarily just socioeconomic. So if you account for all socioeconomic, you account for level of education and wealth. Honestly, you even account for chronic illness. We still die more. You know, so when you put those factors into the numbers, right, it's just going to take it even higher.
Wow. You know, with those type of numbers, you know, what is the medical? I mean, you're not just a practicing OBGYN, board certified, but you're also a professor. So, you know, you're right there helping to train the next generation of doctors and I'm just going to say it, of advocates for women's health, right? Because as a physician, you're just not performing a procedure, but you're also an advocate for them to say, wait a minute, I think you need to do this, or I think you need to see this this doctor because you're experiencing this. So you're being proactive in ensuring that their health is up to par. So from a medical school standpoint, as a professor, what is the medical school and the education process doing to help roll that number back and bring it down to at least an equitable amount?
Well, I think there's a lot that's happening, and so that's what's encouraging. You know, there are a lot of groups and organizations, Association of American Medical Schools, ACOG, American College of Obstetrics and Gynecology, that are really shining a light on the fact that Black and brown women are more vulnerable and the fact that there's something that needs to be done. There are many schools, my alma mater also, Georgetown, who have really decided to start training students on implicit bias. And so I think that's where it really starts. You know, we have a large conversation in our country about bias and what that means and what that is, and if it truly is systemic and systematic, and I believe it is. And so, you know, some people move past the rhetoric and move past the drama and actually get to the meat of the issue so we can make some movement. And that's happening in medical schools now, and I think in a lot of schools across the country. So that's really important. But it's also increasing the number, like you said, being an advocate, right? There's no one that's going to advocate for somebody that looks like me than somebody that looks like me.
Wow.
And that's just the plain truth. And so increasing your number of advocates that are available at those upper levels of medicine, not just physicians, but also policymakers in these healthcare institutions, is really, really important. Advocates in levels of education, so we're bringing more people in that are Black and brown and you know, from disadvantaged backgrounds. Mm-hmm. And so it's not only the knowledge, but also the presence of somebody. I have a lot of patients who, you know, were in the system, right, maybe in my group practice, who felt more comfortable talking to me about it because they felt I would understand a little bit more. Right. And so you want to have a patient that is able to open up, right, because that's where you as a physician are really able to make a big impact when you know the truth. And so for me, on my end, where I work with EVMS, work with residents and students, that's a big topic that I talk about, which is really going past the medicine. You know, all these statistics, I didn't give you anything about medicine, like the quality of medicine in this country, because we're fine on that. On the science, we got it. It's how we disperse it, it's how we give it out. And so my conversation oftentimes with those that I'm teaching is, how do you give out this medicine? How do you dispense of it? How do you make that connection? How do you talk to your patients to really, one, get to know who they are, but two, get to know what they really need, you know, and what's holding them back.
Absolutely. You know, you mentioned something that really kind of, I think, drives home the point of having more African American and Black doctors in the pipeline. You said that patients tend to seek out doctors that look like them or have shared experiences, and as a doctor, you're going to advocate for individuals that you've had shared experiences with or that look like you. What is the medical field? What are you seeing as a professor from the admissions office of applicants coming in and students being admitted to medical school and making it through the first 2 years?
I like how you asked about the first 2 years, because those are some of the toughest, you know.
Absolutely.
I think what I'm seeing is a bigger drive to bring in minds that are not those that were traditionally thought to be those that would become doctors or those that would be a part of medicine. And so, you know, not only ethnicity or skin or color, but also just minds that come from a different background, have a different understanding of the world, so that we can diversify medicine and those who dispense medicine a bit more. So untraditional background students, I think, are coming in more and more, which I think is great. And then, yeah, there's a focus on bringing in those people who are underrepresented in medicine. But there has to be. That's not a bad thing. That's a great thing, because we have to diversify our workload. You know, if you look at some of these bills that we're going through with this current administration, Build Back Better. One of the points of Build Back Better, when it focused on healthcare, was diversifying the healthcare field, diversifying those who are getting out healthcare. And so that has to be a focus, and it has to start on the education level. And then, you know, people like me that are out working, we've graduated, we're doing our day-to-day. We have to go back and be mentors. I mean, there's no way to really get through those first 2 years of school. It's tough without having someone showing you where the light is at the end of the tunnel. And so those students that have mentors that are focused, help them focus, and are focused on their success, I think just help those 2 years go by even better.
Wow. It's Stay in the Water. I'm your host, Dr. Eric Claville. We want to thank you for joining us again for another segment of our Commonwealth Conversation series. On this Mother's Day, we're talking with board-certified OBGYN Dr. Mary Ojo-Carsons about the issue of Black maternal equity. As a professor, as a practicing OBGYN, she has diverse knowledge and experience in seeing the issues firsthand. Dr. Carsons, I want to switch very quickly from education to the practice, because you mentioned, you know, the day-to-day practice. As a Black female board-certified OBGYN, how do you find that your patients receive you when they finally see a Black doctor that they can talk to? The words that come to mind first are relief and excitement and surprise. I don't know necessarily what their conversations are with other doctors or other experiences that they've had, but I find that I'm able to have open, frank conversation from the beginning. And often I've received thanks of gratitude from, more seasoned women, older women, of just having the presence that I do have in the position I have, and just, giving back to the community in the way I'm doing. And they say, thank you. Thank you for being a Black woman that's doing this, because I've not had this experience before. And it makes me feel good and makes me feel more secure and satisfied. So those are the three words that come into mind. But, I don't know. It makes me feel good, but it also makes me sad, too, especially for those who are a bit older, that they've gone that long time without having the ability or feeling like they have the ability to be open and frank and comfortable. You should feel comfortable when you're talking to your doctor. You shouldn't feel anything else, right? Right.
Because you're putting your health, you're putting your life and your well-being in somebody's hands. So you should feel comfortable with that person. So to hear that makes me feel happy, and it makes me feel, glad that I'm doing this. But it also does strike a note of sadness, because it shouldn't be this way.
You stated something earlier that I thought was very compelling, where you said that in America, we've got the medicine. We've got the research, we've got the science, we've got that down pat. But it's the meeting out of those services to the people that need it the most. The type of patients that you treat, are they a mixed group of individuals that lack the type of healthcare insurance that individuals, they would call, the golden healthcare package, to those that are, group plans, HMOs, to those that do have that gold plan?
I'd say I treat a very wide, I have a very diverse patient population. I have those that are on Medicaid, Medicare, to those who have that gold package, to those who just don't even, they're just doing it cash because they have that ability. So, but the conversation or the opinion that we're just talking about from those that are Black and brown, it's the same. It's not dependent upon socioeconomic status or insurance plan. It's the same because it's the same access, same limited resources of Black and brown female physicians.
Wow. And when you see those issues, with those patients, whether it be those with the gold package, those with Medicare, Medicaid, is your treatment pretty much the same across the board when you're dealing with their health procedures, health care and how do they receive you on a private and personal level?
For me, I come from a background, and I come from my education in medicine came from a place where we were taught cure personalis, care for the whole person.
Yeah.
And so that's what my approach has always been when I deal with patients, honestly with everyone. But when I deal with patients, my approach is that. So for me, it doesn't matter where you come from, who you come from, what your package is. You're going to get the same amount of time. You're going to get the same amount of effort. You're going to get the same amount of options. I'm a big advocate for empowerment, and part of that empowerment is you making the best choice for yourself. My role is to give you all the options and help you understand them, right? And so that's no matter who you are. You walk into my room, we're going to sit there and we're going to talk because I want to make sure you leave that room understanding what we talked about, understanding the decision you made, and that you're going to be healthy and happy at the end. I think it's well received. I don't think enough people do that. I don't think enough doctors do that, honestly. But then I have my opinion on that. I have a long opinion on that, but I don't think a lot of doctors do that. And I think in some regards, it's just because, we're not given the time to do it. The visits seem to be getting shorter and the problems are getting bigger, But when you get if you're in my exam room, we take the time.
Wow. Well, I'll tell you what, give us the radio version of why you believe that more doctors don't do what you think they should do, because I really want to talk about next what can the system do, again, to bring that very high inequitable number down to an equitable rate where, no matter who you are, like you said, when you come in, you're going to get the same time, similar care, but more importantly, the timely care that you need to save your life and your baby's life.
Well, it's not just, it doesn't just start in the exam room, right? It's also before you get into the exam room or before you get into the hospital. So a lot of preventative things. And this is just on how we educate ourselves as a society. So it's starting in the home. It's starting at school. It's starting in if there is like a home ec or a health, a class they have. It's starting there, getting to know your bodies and your body functions, getting to know what's normal, what's not normal, getting to know how you should be eating, getting to know how you should be moving your body, how much you should be drinking. These are just basic knowledge, things that you should know about yourself. And so that starts at school and at home, because it definitely translates into how healthy you're going to be as you grow. There's a lot of science that's saying that hypertension, high cholesterol is not starting in the 20s or 30s. those markers are starting to be checked off or increased when they're teens. And so catching people early to get them to be a healthier and have a healthier population, then when you get into the exam room, you have a little bit more ability to understand what's happening to you. So even when we're talking about Black maternal equity, a lot of it, the self-advocacy is taking care of yourself at the beginning, right? And so then when we get into the exam room, when we get into the hospital, I think having a better ability in understanding the populations that you're taking care of. So this is where you were talking about training and education in school. We're talking about being part of the community. So these healthcare systems not only bring in doctors or bring in nurses, employ people, but have an investment in the community where they have community projects where these doctors, nurses, techs, they hire are part of the community projects, help you understand the demographic that you're taking care of more and better, help to create more thorough relationships, so that when you're sitting down and talking to somebody, you don't just know them for those 5 minutes. Maybe you have a little bit more investment that you've been able to create or make because of these community projects that your healthcare system has created. And then, when we get on the insurance side, we have to pump people out because things are getting cut, right? Reimbursements are just over the years just continue to get cut. So payments and the expense of medicine, payments go low, expense of medicine goes high. And so you're seeing more patients in a shorter amount of time in order to keep things going. And that makes the patient relationship suffer because you definitely cannot tell me everything that you've been feeling over the last 2 months in 15 minutes, wow. So it's a big problem. I think, there are things in the work that are trying to solve it and trying to at least address it. That makes me feel better as a physician. But I also, on our level, our own individual levels as physicians, we have to remember that our relationships with our patients are extremely important to their well-being. And that's something that we need to nurture and foster. And that does take time and effort on our end.
As it relates to the relationship of a doctor, patient-doctor, on a private and personal level, how do you feel it helps you as a wife, a mother, and a daughter to be able to relate to, I would assume, the entire spectrum of women age, young, middle-aged, older, and those that are would like to have children, those that don't want to have any more children, and the like?
My experiences color my practice. They really do. They really do. And I think there's not a way to avoid that, whether it's an experience that I've had in the hospital, in the operating room with a patient, or an experience I had with my mother. A lot of the reason I became an OBGYN is because of my experiences, my personal experiences with my family. Seeing my mom go through a few things that she did when I was younger pushed me towards this profession. And so I think it makes me a better physician. I hope it makes me a better physician. We want to be sympathetic, but I think you want to be more empathetic. You want to be able to understand more, and so I think my experiences as a mom, as a daughter, as a wife, my husband's a physician too, so we share that bond together, has helped to strengthen my relationships with my patients.
Awesome. My wife always tells me that nothing learned in life is ever wasted. You can always use it for something. In our last few moments, I want to talk a little bit about an area of research that you're doing and its impact upon especially Black women, because we find that this area affects Black women a lot more than their counterparts, and it's fibroids. You've done writing and research on myomectomies or fibroidectomies, which of course is the removal of fibroids, And there's research out there of why black women get more fibroids than white women and others. And what is the impact of that, and how important is it for us to understand it as it relates to not just black women's health, but also black maternal health and its impact on pregnancies?
Mm-hmm. I'm so glad you asked me that. I'm so glad, because fibroids definitely something that impacts black women much more than other ethnicities, and something that black women ignore a lot longer than others. And it does have a big impact on your ability to get pregnant, to stay pregnant, to deliver and the route you have to deliver in, and then just your overall well-being. It can cause a lot of issues. And so I think in our communities, we have to have honest discussions about, one, preventative care. Okay, some of that preventative care when you talk about fibroids is addressing your fibroid when it's early, when you know that you have it and you know you're having problems from it. Some of that addressing it is actually going to your GYN, right? Making those visits, those yearly visits, so that you can have someone helping you watch it as it grows, and then addressing it early. Addressing a fibroid early can help to prevent all of these things that I just talked about that fibroids can cause. And so I think that's probably the takeaway message I want women to know. It is common. There are a lot of theories on why black women have it more. Just despite the theories, despite all of that, addressing it early, seeing your GYN frequently, yearly, can help to prevent all of the issues with bleeding, pain, infertility, miscarriage, or needing, some type of major surgery or cesarean section at delivery because of fibroids.
Wow. Again, that's something that I know that, like a lot of issues that affect African-American and black patients, you really don't get a lot of research on it, but it affects our community. But it's so glad to know that you are delving into the area of research and making sure that black women have a voice as far as that goes. In our last few seconds, just give us one thing that you want to tell our women out there to do to ensure that they have a good pregnancy.
I having a support system is extremely important. So family, friends, definitely. I'm seeing a big trend in the black community on doulas, either becoming a doula or having a doula present at your delivery. I think that we come back to talking about advocating for yourself. And part of that advocating is during those times that you know that you will be in the hospital or just during the entire pregnancy, having a good support system around you that loves you, cares for you, and will help you watch out for things that may harm you is extremely important. And again, I just come back to taking care of yourself, making sure you're sleeping, eating well, watching your blood pressure. Pregnancy is not a time to let it go. Pregnancy is a time to rein it in and make sure you're still exercising and eating well.
Absolutely. Dr. Carsons, thank you so much for joining us here on Stay in the Water. We want to, again, wish you a happy Mother's Day. All the mothers out there, happy Mother's Day to you. And hopefully we can have you back very soon.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And to all of you that are listening to us out there on the radio air, enjoy your Sunday. Spoil the mothers in your life because we only get one in this time. God bless, and we'll see you next week.